The sound of paper ripping still haunts me. I found the loan approval letter behind our TV stand, buried beneath old magazines Cole had stacked there months ago. $1.5 million. My name printed across the top in bold black letters. My social security number listed right underneath. But when I looked at the signature line, my hands went ice cold. That wasn't my handwriting. Cole walked into the living room carrying his coffee. The moment he saw me holding that paper, his cup slipped straight from his fingers. It shattered on the hardwood floor, coffee spreading everywhere like dark blood. Neither of us moved to clean it up. "Hannah," he whispered, his face draining white. It's not what you think." I looked up at him slowly. "Then what is it, Cole?" "Because what I think is that someone forged my name on a loan worth more than our house." His mouth opened and closed like he was drowning. Then I saw the next line on the form, approved by Victoria Ellison. His face went even whiter. That name clearly meant something terrible to him. I didn't scream. That's what normal people would do, right? Yell and throw things and demand answers. But I'd learned something important in my 32 years: staying calm gives you power. So I sat down on our gray couch, the same one we'd picked out together 5 years ago, and looked at the man I'd shared a life with for 8 years. "My name is Hannah Tate," I said quietly, like I was introducing myself to a stranger. "And I just discovered that my husband turned me into collateral for a loan I never signed for." Cole started talking fast. Words tumbled over each other in a panic. Something about business opportunities. Temporary solutions. A chance to fix everything. His hands moved frantically, gesturing at nothing, explaining nothing. I watched him unravel. The confident man I'd married was gone, replaced by someone desperate and cornered. Every word he said made things worse, but he couldn't seem to stop. That night, after he finally fell asleep on the couch, I pulled out a fresh notebook. I wrote today's date on the first page. Then I wrote everything: where I found the letter, what time, his exact reaction, every word he'd said. Evidence. That's what I was building. The next morning, I told Cole I was going to the bank alone. He tried to come with me, but I insisted. "I need to understand this myself first," I said. He looked relieved, which told me everything. The loan officer was a woman named Patricia. She had perfectly styled blonde hair and a practiced corporate smile. She pulled up our file immediately. "Yes, Mrs. Tate, everything was approved under your name. Your signature is right here on all the documents." She turned her computer screen toward me. I saw my name typed over and over, and signatures that looked almost exactly like mine. Almost. But the lowercase a in Tate was wrong. I always looped mine differently. "Who processed this loan?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Patricia clicked through several screens. The approval came from Victoria Ellison. She's one of our senior commercial loan officers. I wrote the name in my phone, though I didn't need to. Cole's reaction yesterday had already burned it into my brain. "Can I get copies of all the paperwork?" Patricia's smile never wavered as she printed everything. She had no idea she was handing me ammunition. That evening, I made Cole's favorite dinner. Grilled chicken with roasted vegetables. I poured wine like nothing was wrong. Over dinner, I asked casually, "Who's Victoria Ellison?" His fork clattered against his plate. "Nobody. Just someone from years ago." "From where?" "Work. Ancient history." He gulped his wine and immediately refilled his glass. His hand shook slightly. I didn't push. Not yet. Letting him think he'd gotten away with a simple lie was part of my strategy. Instead, I changed the subject to weekend plans. He relaxed. I smiled. We cleaned up together like a normal couple. Later, when he was asleep, I logged into his laptop. He'd always been careless with passwords. He used our wedding date backward for everything. In his email, I searched for Victoria and found a folder hidden under spam. Messages. Dozens of them. Please, I need this. You owe me. I'll pay you back, I swear. And her responses were cold, professional, calculating. Victoria Ellison wasn't just a loan officer. She was someone from his past. Someone he was afraid of. I spent the next day researching Victoria Ellison online. Her LinkedIn profile showed an impressive career in commercial lending. But 10 years ago, she'd been regional director at a construction firm. The same firm where Cole had worked before we got married. I remembered him mentioning that job once, saying he'd left because of a difficult boss. He'd never given details. Now I understood why. I called the bank again, pretending to be Cole's assistant. I'm helping Mr. Tate organize his business records. Can you tell me which company account the loan was processed through? The clerk was friendly and helpful. Sure, it's registered under Ellison Financial Consulting. That's Ms. Ellison's private firm. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a bank loan. Victoria had processed it through her own company, using my identity. But why? And what had Cole promised her in return? That night, I lay next to my husband, listening to him breathe, and wondered how long he'd been planning this. How many months had he been lying to my face, kissing me goodnight, pretending everything was fine? I decided to play the perfect wife. If Cole thought I was falling apart, he might get defensive or run. But if he thought I was clueless and trusting, he'd stay comfortable. Comfortable people make mistakes. So I made pancakes for breakfast. I kissed him goodbye at the door. I sent sweet text messages during the day. I laughed at his jokes. I asked about his work with genuine interest. I pretended the loan letter had never happened, like we'd somehow resolved it in my mind and moved on. He started to relax. I could see it in the way his shoulders loosened, how his smile reached his eyes again. He thought I was too naive to fight back. Too dependent to leave. Too trusting to investigate. But every time he left the house, I photographed documents. I recorded phone calls on an app he didn't know about. I copied bank statements and saved email threads. Everything went into a cloud account he couldn't access. He thought I was healing. I was hunting. And when he kissed my forehead each night, I smiled sweetly and counted the days until I had everything I needed. The next discovery happened by accident. I was organizing our tax documents when I found a bank statement for an account I'd never seen before. It was a joint account with both our names at the top. But I'd never signed papers to open it. I traced every transaction carefully. Money came in from somewhere, stayed for a day or two, then vanished. The deposits matched perfectly with withdrawals from something called Lucky Streak Gaming. My hand shook as I searched the name. It was an online gambling app. Cole had been funneling money through this fake joint account, using my name to hide his losses. Every bet. Every loss. Every desperate attempt to win it back. All done under my identity. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw things and demand answers. Instead, I took photos of every page. I filed them carefully in my digital evidence folder labeled Taxes 2024. When Cole came home that evening, I greeted him with a smile. "How was your day?" "Good," he said, kissing me on the cheek. "Really good." I wanted to scrub my skin where his lips had touched. Instead, I asked what he wanted for dinner. A week later, I returned to the bank to deposit a check. The same teller who'd helped me before, a young woman named Keisha, glanced around nervously. She slid a note under the counter along with my receipt. I waited until I was in my car to read it, check his business filings. County courthouse. Records are public. My heart pounded. I drove straight to the courthouse, requested business registration records for Cole Tate, and waited while the clerk pulled up the files. What I found made my blood run cold. Cole had registered a company called Tate Construction Consulting 6 months ago. The business listed me as co-owner. My signature was on the Articles of Incorporation. Another forgery. The company showed 3 major contracts with local developers. But when I called those developers later, they'd never heard of Tate Construction Consulting. The contracts were fake. The entire business was a shell, propped up by forged paperwork and my stolen identity. I wasn't his wife anymore. I was his financial puppet, dancing on strings I'd never known existed. And every document bore my name, my signature, my liability. I finally called Victoria Ellison directly. She answered on the second ring, her voice smooth and professional. Victoria Ellison speaking. This is Hannah Tate. I believe you approved a loan in my name. Long silence. Then, Mrs. Tate. I've been expecting your call. Did you know Cole forged my signature? Cole told me you'd co-signed willingly. I verified your identification using records from when you worked for me years ago. Everything appeared legitimate at the time. I gripped my phone tighter. So you helped him commit fraud. Her tone turned icy. Let's just say your husband owes me significantly more than money, Mrs. Tate. I suggest you ask him about that yourself. She hung up. I sat in my car, staring at my phone, trying to understand. Victoria wasn't just a loan officer. She wasn't even just his old boss. She had real leverage over him. Something bigger than money. Something that made him desperate enough to steal my identity and destroy my life. That evening, I looked at Cole differently. He wasn't just a man who'd made bad choices. He was someone running from something, or someone, much worse. I started recording everything. My phone became my secret weapon. Every conversation with Cole got saved automatically to the cloud. Every promise he made. Every lie he told. Every moment of fake comfort. I'll fix everything, he told me one night, holding me while I stared past him at the bedroom wall. We'll be fine. I promise, Hannah. His hand trembled against my back. I could feel his guilt radiating through his fingertips. Part of me almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I know we will, I whispered, quietly hitting save on the recording app hidden in my pocket. I had hours of audio now. Cole promising to fix things. Cole admitting the business was struggling. Cole explaining why he needed just a little more time. Every word became evidence. Every lie became ammunition for what was coming. My lawyer, the one I'd quietly hired 2 weeks ago, told me these recordings were perfect. In Colorado, you only needed one party's consent to record a conversation. I was that party. And Cole had no idea I was documenting his confession, one word at a time. The slip came during a stupid argument about dishes. I'd left a pot in the sink overnight, and Cole snapped at me about being careless. You think I wanted this? He suddenly yelled, his voice cracking with emotion. Victoria promised she'd clear my debt if I did this one thing. I froze, a wet plate still in my hands. What debt? His eyes went wide. He'd said too much, and we both knew it. Nothing. Forget it. He turned away, but his hands were shaking badly. Cole, what debt are you talking about? Just drop it, Hannah. But I couldn't drop it. Because that one sentence had revealed everything important. He hadn't taken out the loan for a business opportunity or investment. He'd done it because Victoria owned him. Whatever debt he owed her was big enough to make him destroy his own wife's financial life to pay it off. That night, I couldn't look at him. I lay in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, listening to him breathe beside me. I was sleeping next to a stranger who'd sold me out to save himself. Cole's mother called me 2 days later. Her voice was sharp and accusing. Hannah, I need to talk to you about supporting my son better. I gripped the phone, recording the call, staying silent. He's trying to rebuild his career, and frankly, you're not helping. He needs a wife who believes in him, not one who questions everything he does. She didn't know about the loan. She didn't know about the forgery or the fake business or any of it. To her, I was just the difficult wife holding back her precious son. I understand, I said softly, my voice humble. I'll try to be more supportive. Good. Because honestly, Hannah, you've always been the problem in his life. Ever since you two got married, things have gone downhill for him. Maybe you should think about that. I stayed quiet, let her vent, let her blame me for his failures. When she finally hung up, I saved the recording with all the others. Cole's family had always treated me like I wasn't good enough for him. Soon, they'd learn the truth about who they'd been protecting all these years. The bomb dropped 3 weeks later. The bank sent a formal notice by certified mail. The first loan payment was overdue. If we didn't pay within 30 days, they'd begin seizing assets to cover the debt. My assets. I let myself panic, just enough for Cole to see. My hands shook when I showed him the letter. My voice cracked with fear. Cole, what are we going to do? They're going to take everything. I'll fix it, he swore, grabbing my shoulders desperately. I promise, Hannah. Trust me. Please just trust me. I do, I lied, looking straight into his desperate eyes. I trust you completely. That same afternoon, I went to the bank alone and froze every single shared account we had. Every joint checking account. Every shared savings account. Everything Cole had access to under my name. Then I transferred my personal money to a completely new bank across town. My lawyer had advised me carefully on this. You need to protect yourself legally before this gets worse. Freeze what you can now. Create financial separation immediately. So I did. And then I went home and made his favorite dinner like absolutely nothing had changed. His credit card declined at dinner 2 nights later. We were at his favorite restaurant, celebrating nothing in particular, when the waiter returned looking apologetic. Sir, I'm sorry, but this card was declined. Do you have another one? Cole's face went bright red. He tried a second card. Declined. Then a third. Also declined. I watched him fumble frantically through his wallet, sweat forming on his forehead, and felt absolutely nothing. No sympathy. No guilt. Just cold satisfaction. I'll get it, I said calmly, pulling out my personal card, the one linked to my new, completely separate account. The one he couldn't touch or control. We drove home in thick silence. The moment we walked through the door, he exploded. Did you touch my accounts? Did you freeze them? I turned to face him calmly. You mean our accounts? The ones with my name on them that you opened without permission? You had no right. Neither did you when you forged my signature on $1 million loan. I kept my voice level and controlled. But here we are. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall and shattered. I calmly locked the deadbolt behind him. Victoria called me the next morning. Her professional tone was completely gone, replaced by barely controlled panic. Mrs. Tate, we need to talk urgently. Your husband is losing control. He's been calling me repeatedly, threatening me, saying he'll expose what I did. I put her on speaker, recording everything as always. And what exactly did you do, Victoria? I helped him when I shouldn't have. I thought he'd actually pay me back this time. But now everything's falling apart, and if this goes public, my firm will face serious legal liability. Maybe you should have thought about that before you approved a fraudulent loan. Long silence. Then, quietly, what do you want from me? I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. I want the complete truth. All of it. Why did you really do this? She sighed heavily. Cole stole from my company 10 years ago. $80,000. I caught him, but I didn't report it to police because I cared about him back then. I let him leave quietly. But he's owed me ever since. This loan was supposed to be his way of finally paying me back. My stomach twisted painfully. Cole hadn't just forged my signature for a business investment. He'd done it to pay off a decade-old theft. I hired a private financial investigator named Daniel Brooks. He specialized in fraud cases and identity theft. Within just 3 days, he handed me a thick report, falsified documents, illegal use of identification, unauthorized digital signatures, everything documented with precise dates and transaction records. You have more than enough here to press criminal charges, Daniel told me in his small downtown office. And legally, none of this touches you. You're completely protected. I paid him in cash from my separate account and drove home with the report hidden carefully in my purse. Cole was watching TV when I walked in, completely oblivious to the fact that I now held his entire future in a manila folder. "How was your day?" he asked, not looking away from the screen. "Fine," I said, smiling pleasantly. "Really fine actually." That night, I read the entire report 3 times, making absolutely sure I understood every detail. Then I sent a copy to my lawyer and saved another to the cloud. I also printed a physical copy and hid it at my sister's house. The game was almost over. I just needed one final move. I gave him an ultimatum over breakfast. No emotion, no drama, just cold facts. "Cole, you have exactly 48 hours to tell me the complete truth about Victoria, the loan, and everything you've done. Or I go directly to the police with all the evidence I've collected over the past 2 months." His coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. "Evidence? What evidence?" I pulled out my phone and played a recording, his voice clearly admitting Victoria had leverage over him. Then I showed him screenshots of the forged business documents. Then photos of the gambling account statements. "I have everything, Cole. Every lie, every forgery, every illegal transaction. Every conversation we've had. So you can either tell me the complete truth right now, or you can explain it all to a detective instead." He stared at me like I'd transformed into someone he didn't recognize. You've been investigating me this whole time?" "I've been protecting myself." "There's a significant difference." I stood up, leaving my untouched breakfast on the table. 48 hours. Your choice entirely." I walked out of the kitchen, leaving him sitting there in complete shock. He broke that same night. I found him sitting on the bathroom floor, crying like a child. Real tears streaming down his face, his whole body shaking with sobs. "I'm so sorry," he gasped between breaths. "Hannah, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you like this. I just needed to fix things. I needed to pay Victoria back and fix everything." I stood in the doorway, watching him completely fall apart, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction. Just emptiness where love used to live. "You stole from her company 10 years ago," I said flatly. $80,000. She covered for you, and you've been paying her back ever since with interest. He looked up, genuinely shocked that I knew. "She told you everything?" "She told me enough. The question is, why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I was ashamed." He wiped his face roughly. "I made one terrible mistake, and it's haunted me ever since. I thought if I could just get this loan, pay her off completely, we could finally start fresh. By destroying my credit? My identity? My entire future?" He had no answer. Just more tears. I turned off the bathroom light and left him sitting alone in the dark. I didn't call the police myself. That would have been too obvious and direct. Instead, I sent an anonymous package to the compliance department of Victoria's firm, copies of all the forged documents, proof of the illegal loan processing, everything. Within 72 hours, Victoria's company launched an internal investigation. Within 1 week, she was suspended pending review. Her name appeared in the local business journal, a small article about possible lending improprieties currently under review. Cole saw the article at breakfast and went completely pale. "They're investigating her. Hannah, they're going to find everything. They'll trace it all back." "I know," I said calmly, sipping my coffee. "Did you?" He couldn't finish the question. I didn't answer. Let him wonder. Let him panic. Let him realize that the quiet, trusting wife he'd been lying to for months had been quietly dismantling his entire scheme from the inside. That night, his phone rang constantly. Probably Victoria calling. Probably his lawyer. He ignored them all, pacing our living room like a trapped animal. I watched him from the kitchen, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. His family turned on him when the truth finally came out. His mother called, screaming through the phone so loudly I could hear her from across the room. "You did what? You forged Hannah's signature? You dragged that poor girl into your mess?" Cole tried to defend himself, stammering weak excuses, but his father cut him off sharply. "We raised you better than this. That woman stood by you through everything, and you repaid her by committing fraud in her name?" I didn't say a single word. Just listened quietly as his family finally saw him clearly. The golden child, the son who could supposedly do no wrong, had revealed himself to be exactly what I'd known him to be, a coward and a criminal. When he finally hung up, his hands were shaking badly. "They hate me now. My own family hates me." "They should," I said quietly. "You earned it." He looked at me with such complete desperation that I almost felt something. Almost. But then I remembered the sleepless nights, the constant fear, the betrayal. Any sympathy I might have felt evaporated instantly. The bank called me directly 3 days later. "Mrs. Tate, this is Patricia from First National. I'm calling with an update on your case." My heart pounded hard. "Yes? We've completed our full investigation. The loan is being frozen pending legal proceedings. You're completely cleared of any liability. Your credit will be fully restored, and we're working directly with law enforcement regarding the fraudulent documents." I exhaled slowly, relief washing over me like a wave. "Thank you so much." "I'm truly sorry this happened to you," Patricia said softly, her corporate tone finally cracking. "You didn't deserve any of this." After I hung up, I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and cried. Real tears this time. Not from sadness, but from pure relief. For months, I'd carried the weight of Cole's crimes on my shoulders, wondering if I'd ever be free. Now, finally, the law saw the truth. I wasn't the criminal. I was the victim. And more importantly, I was the survivor who'd fought back intelligently. Cole came home with packed bags on a Tuesday afternoon. He'd stopped trying to explain himself, stopped apologizing, stopped pretending there was any possible way to fix what he'd broken between us. "I'm leaving," he said flatly, standing in our living room with 2 large suitcases. "You win, Hannah." I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt absolutely nothing. No victory, no sadness, no anger. Just relief that he'd finally be gone from my life. "I didn't play to win," I said quietly but firmly. "I played to survive." He stared at me for a long moment, like he wanted to say something else. But what was there left to say? He'd stolen my identity, forged my signature, gambled away money, and dragged me into his criminal past. Words wouldn't fix any of that. "Goodbye, Cole." He picked up his bags and walked out. I watched through the window as he loaded his car, backed out of our driveway, and disappeared down the street forever. The man I'd married 8 years ago was finally gone. And I was finally, truly alone. But this time, being alone felt like freedom. The complete truth came out 3 weeks later in a legal document from the bank's investigative team. I read it twice, unable to believe what I was seeing. The signature that approved the loan, the one listed under Victoria Ellison, wasn't actually hers either. Cole had forged her name too. He'd stolen digital copies of her signature from old company documents and used them to approve his own fraudulent loan without her knowledge. Victoria hadn't known about the loan at all. She'd been as much a victim as I was. And when she found out the truth, she'd immediately cooperated with investigators, providing evidence of Cole's decade-old theft and his recent forgeries. My phone rang. Cole's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "They're pressing federal charges," he said, his voice completely hollow. "Federal fraud charges. Identity theft. Forgery. I'm looking at years in prison, Hannah." I closed my eyes. Then you finally know how it feels to have your name stolen. Your identity used. Your future destroyed by someone you trusted. He started crying again, but I hung up immediately. I'd given him enough of my time, my sympathy, my life. He wouldn't get my forgiveness too. Cole was arrested on a Thursday morning. Federal agents, local police, everything. The story hit the local news that evening. Local man arrested for $1 million fraud scheme. His face, the same face that had smiled at me over breakfast just months ago, was now plastered across TV screens with words like criminal and identity theft underneath. His family stopped calling. His friends disappeared completely. The man who'd once been so charming and confident was now defined entirely by his worst choices. I sat on my porch that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in beautiful shades of orange and purple. I held my coffee mug, the one that said Mrs. Tate that I'd gotten as a wedding gift, and took a slow sip. It tasted like peace. Victoria called to apologize sincerely. I should have verified everything more carefully. I should have questioned him harder. We both trusted someone we shouldn't have, I said. At least now we both know better. What will you do now? I smiled, looking out at my quiet street. Start over. On my own terms this time. I sold the house 6 months later. Too many painful memories lived in those walls, too many ghosts of the life I'd thought I was building with Cole. With the money from the sale, I paid off all my remaining debts, bought a small condo downtown, and opened my own consulting business. I help women now. Women who suspect financial abuse in their relationships. Women who need to understand their credit reports, their joint accounts, their legal rights and protections. Women who trusted someone they shouldn't have, exactly like I did. My first client was a woman named Jessica whose husband had opened credit cards in her name without permission. I showed her how to check for fraud, how to freeze her credit, how to document everything legally and protect herself. When she left my office, she hugged me tight and whispered, "Thank you for believing me when no one else did." That's when I knew I'd found my true purpose in life. Cole had tried to destroy me by stealing my identity. Instead, he'd taught me the value of protecting it fiercely. Every woman I help is another victory over what he did to me. Another life saved. Another future protected from financial abuse. And every time I sign my name now, on contracts, on checks, on official documents, I make it bold, clear, and entirely mine. Because that signature isn't just my name anymore. It's my survival. It's my power. It's proof that I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. Cole took everything he could from me. But the one thing he couldn't steal was my ability to rebuild myself. And in the end, that's what mattered most.